Step into the world of MMA, where upsets and surprises are the norm. We're taking a look at some of the most unforgettable fights where underdogs rose to the occasion, and champions faced unexpected defeats. From knockouts to strategic masterclasses, these battles remind us why we love this sport. Let's dive in. Poirier vs. Johnson. Dustin Poirier and Michael Johnson, two top-ranked lightweight fighters, were set to face off in a 5-round main event at UFC Fight Night 94. Poirier was riding high on a winning streak, having recently knocked out Bobby Green, while Johnson was coming off a loss to Nate Diaz. Leading up to the fight, Poirier didn't hold back in his interviews, dismissing Johnson as no threat. Even at the weigh-ins, he showed his disdain by putting his finger in Johnson's face. However, in the actual fight, Johnson quickly turned the tables. He landed a sharp right hook followed by a powerful left hand, securing a knockout victory over Poirier. This fight was a classic reminder in MMA that no matter how confident you are, anything can happen once you're in the octagon. ManMMA vs. Özdemir. Top LA heavyweight Jimmy ManMMA was all set to take on the up-and-coming Volkan Özdemir in a 3-round clash at UFC 214. ManMMA had been on a roll, knocking out guys like Ovince St. Preux and Corey Anderson. Özdemir also had some solid wins under his belt against the same St. Preux and Misha Cherkanov. Before the fight, ManMMA wasn't too worried about Özdemir, almost looking past him and eyeing a future bout with Daniel Cormier. But in the ring, things took a dramatic turn. Özdemir only needed 42 seconds to completely turn the tables and knock out ManMMA, snagging a lightning-fast victory. This bout was a stark reminder in the fight world that underestimating your opponent can lead to a quick and surprising defeat. Garbrandt vs. Dillashaw. Cody Garbrandt's first title defense was a heated matchup against TJ Dillashaw at UFC 217. Cody, coming off a decision win over Dominic Cruz at UFC 207, had a lot of hype behind him. TJ, fresh from a win over John Lineker, was equally pumped. The rivalry between these two was intense, especially after their clashes on The Ultimate Fighter show. Cody even released footage showing him knocking TJ down in training, boasting he'd do the same in their official fight. At UFC 217, the tension was high. Cody managed to score a knockdown in the first round, but didn't have enough time to finish the job. In the second round, TJ turned the tables with a clean shot that dropped Cody. He then unleashed a flurry of punches, securing a TKO victory. It was a classic example of how quickly fortunes can change in the octagon. Miocic vs. Ngannou. Stipe Miocic's fourth title defense was a big one, against the powerhouse Francis Ngannou at UFC 220. Coming into the fight, Miocic had just taken down Junior Dos Santos with a TKO at UFC 211, while Ngannou was riding high after knocking out Alistair Overeem. During the build-up, Ngannou seemed super confident, maybe even a bit overconfident, believing his sheer power would snag him the world title. But in the actual fight, Miocic showed why he was the champ. He brilliantly withstood Ngannou's powerful strikes and controlled the fight for all 5 rounds. Miocic's strategy and endurance completely outmatched Ngannou's raw power, allowing him to retain his title. It was a masterclass in how skill and strategy can triumph over brute strength in the octagon. Werdum vs. Miocic. Fabricio Werdum's first title defense was against Stipe Miocic at UFC 198. Werdum had recently shocked everyone by beating Cain Velasquez, while Miocic was coming in hot with TKO wins over Mark Hunt and Andrei Arlovski. Leading up to their fight, Werdum was oozing confidence, sometimes even looking like he wasn't taking Miocic seriously. He was all smiles, even in the cage, but the fight told a different story. Werdum got a bit too eager and chased Miocic around the octagon. Then, out of nowhere, Stipe landed a massive right hand, knocking Werdum out cold. This fight was a classic case of how being overconfident can backfire in a big way. Miocic's cool-headed approach and powerful striking turned the tables, snatching the victory in a stunning fashion. Jędrzejczyk vs. Namajunas. For her 5th title defense at UFC 217, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, the undefeated champ, was set to face Rose Namajunas. Joanna had been dominating the strawweight division while Rose was climbing up the ranks, having recently submitted Michelle Waterson at UFC on Fox 24. Leading up to their showdown, Joanna seemed to underestimate Rose, trying to intimidate her and not seeing her as a real threat, even mocking her during the face-offs. But in the octagon, the story took a sharp turn. Rose, calm and focused, landed a powerful left hook that dropped Joanna in the first round. She didn't stop there. She followed up with a barrage of punches, securing a TKO victory. This fight was a stark reminder that in MMA, underestimating an opponent can lead to a stunning upset. Rose's victory over Joanna was a mix of strategy, skill, and composure under pressure, proving she was a force to be reckoned with in the division. Diaz's revenge. Nate Diaz stepped up on short notice to fight the notorious Conor McGregor in a welterweight bout. McGregor had recently made headlines by knocking out Jose Aldo with a single punch at UFC 194, while Diaz had impressively beaten Michael Johnson at UFC on Fox 17. McGregor picked Diaz as his opponent, thinking he was a better matchup for him. In the build-up to the fight, McGregor seemed to look past Diaz, underestimating his skills. He was already talking about his path to a title, acting like he had the win in the bag. But the fight told a different story. McGregor came out swinging, landing some heavy blows, but he couldn't finish Diaz off. In the second round, the game changed. Diaz came back strong, stunning McGregor with a solid right hand. He then managed to lock in a rear naked choke, forcing McGregor to tap out. This was a huge upset, sending shockwaves through the MMA world. It was a classic example of how quickly things can turn around in the octagon, and a reminder to never underestimate your opponent, no matter how confident you are. Rockhold's fall. Luke Rockhold's first title defense was set against a last-minute replacement, Michael Bisping, at UFC 199. Rockhold was riding high from a TKO win over Chris Weidman at UFC 194, while Bisping had racked up 3 wins, most recently defeating Anderson Silva by unanimous decision at UFC Fight Night 84. Leading up to the fight, Rockhold made it clear he thought little of Bisping. He kept saying Bisping wasn't in his league and expected the fight to be easy, especially since he had previously submitted Bisping at UFC Fight Night 55. Rockhold's confidence was sky high, maybe too high, but the fight had a twist in store. Bisping, the underdog, shocked everyone. He landed a sharp left hook that stunned Rockhold, then unleashed a flurry of punches. The result? A knockout victory for Bisping. This fight was a classic reminder in the MMA world that overconfidence can be your downfall, and underestimating an opponent, especially one as seasoned as Bisping, can lead to a stunning upset. Bisping's victory over Rockhold was not just a win, it was a testament to perseverance and the unpredictability of the sport. Rousey's redemption. Ronda Rousey's 6th title defense was set against Holly Holm at UFC 193. Rousey was a force to reckon with as the reigning champ, having racked up 5 impressive title defenses. Holly Holm, on the other hand, was building her reputation, coming off a split decision win against Raquel Pennington at UFC 184 and a unanimous decision over Marion Renault. Throughout the build-up to their fight, Rousey generally stayed respectful towards Holm, but tensions flared the day after the weigh-ins, leading to an altercation where Rousey threw some pretty harsh words Holm's way. In the actual fight, Holm showcased her striking prowess, landing solid shots from a distance and keeping Rousey at bay. Rousey, known for her judo and ground game, seemed outmatched on her feet. In the second round, Holm landed a powerful head kick, knocking Rousey out cold. This fight was a massive upset and a game-changer in women's MMA. It showed the world that even the most dominant champions could be dethroned, and it highlighted Holm's striking skills and strategic approach in the octagon. Rousey's fall from being an invincible champion to being knocked out was a stark reminder of the unpredictability and the ever-evolving nature of mixed martial arts. Silva's downfall. Anderson Silva, the reigning middleweight champ, was all set for his 11th title defense against Chris Weidman at UFC 162. Silva had an unbeaten UFC record of 16-0 and seemed virtually invincible in the octagon. Weidman, though less experienced with a 5-0 UFC record, was coming off a knockout win over Mark Munoz at UFC on Fuel TV 4. As the fight began, Silva's attitude raised some eyebrows. He started to showboat, disrespecting Weidman with his antics. It looked like Silva wasn't taking Weidman seriously as a contender. He kept his hands low and seemed to be goofing around rather than focusing on the high-stakes fight. This approach backfired in the second round. Weidman, undistracted by Silva's antics, landed a solid left hook. Silva hit the canvas, and just like that, the invincible champion was knocked out. This was a huge shock in the MMA world. It was a stark reminder that in the octagon, no fighter is unbeatable, and that underestimating an opponent, no matter how skilled or experienced you are, can lead to a stunning defeat. Silva's knockout loss to Weidman marked a significant moment in UFC history, showing that focus and respect for the opponent are key in this unpredictable sport. That's a wrap on our journey through some of MMA's most jaw-dropping moments. These fights remind us that in the octagon, anything can happen and no fighter is ever truly invincible. It's what makes every match so thrilling and unpredictable. Stay tuned for more action-packed battles and epic showdowns.